Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Anything you want to talk about, folks, this afternoon? The lines and the texts are wide open, as we say. I do want to bring you up to date on my campaign, or our campaign, to get the university, get the Museum of Guelph to loan the McRae medals to the museum here, the War Museum here in Ottawa. We're still getting, I think even as of yesterday, we're still getting some texts and emails coming in from people supporting the idea. So we're going to wait a couple of more days. And that I'm going to compile all. We have, I would think we've got several dozen, maybe approaching 100 now, which I'm very pleased with, of letters and so forth supporting the idea. I think that's very strong support. So I'm going to compile that into a proper presentation, and I'm going to present it to the University of Guelph. My idea, and some of you may disagree with this, you may have a better idea. My idea would be to aim towards having these medals returned to Ottawa for a month or two, or perhaps longer, in time for November 11th of next year. I think it would be a special, hopefully would have a special presentation at the War Museum. I think it might be an added attraction. I'm even thinking, this is, I guess, the marketer in me, and maybe trying to tie it into some sort of promotion to have a couple, I don't know, a trip to John McRae's grave, and the Menin Gate, or even Vimy. I don't know. It's just an idea I have. But for the time being, what we're doing is we're compiling all of these into a professional presentation, which we will make to the University of Guelph with a very strong argument that it would be in the national interest to have these war medals on display here in Ottawa, at least in time for next November 11th. So that's where we are, folks. If anybody has more letters of support, John, where do they send them now?
Simple. Please email Lowell, Lowell, at blasttheradio.com. If you just go to lowellgreen.com, it'll take you right to Lowell's page, and you can send an email right there. But again, Lowell at blasttheradio.com. Craig's already in to say great idea. Julie says this is awesome. Peter says great idea. And Julie says she's always wanted to go to Vimy. So there you go.
Well, I just an idea. I have no idea.
I love it.
How this would tie in. I mean, I'm going to tell you something. I've dealt with government agencies and bureaucracies before, and I have some news for you, folks. It ain't easy. There's one thing that the average bureaucrat has perfected, and that is stalling. As I say, anything you want to discuss, folks, lines are wide open. Love to hear from you. Plenty of speculation whether our good friend Jim Watson should run again as mayor. What do you think? What's your view here? Does Jim Watson deserve another term? And if not, do you have any ideas as to who you would like to see run against him? As we know, there are several members of council that in the past, at least, have indicated some interest in running against him. I think most of them are always on the left side of the council chambers, and some of them really far left. But it just seems that that's the way to go with municipal councils. But aside from councillors, or if there is a councillor that you would like to see run and think that would give Jim Watson a good run for his money, is there anybody you can think outside council? God, it would be so nice to get a fresh face, some fresh ideas, some innovative ideas in council, would it not? Is there anybody you can think aside from me or John Milkey, of course.
Oh, damn.
I think we can disqualify ourselves here, John.
Uh, first name that comes to my mind, I don't know how you feel about it, Alex Munter.
Alex Munter.
Yeah,
Alex has never been a friend of mine, but
I understand
oh,
that.
yeah, but yeah, it would be an interest. That's an interesting idea. How about Vern White, Senator Vern White? Now,
Ooh.
Senator White would certainly interest me. I've had many dealings with Vern, and I always found him to be a straight up guy. A little bit profane. I don't think I've ever dealt with a public official before that had a better mastery of the curse words than. But I'm going to tell you, he did a hell of a job, and he didn't. He called a spade, and he and I worked fairly close together, trying to create some accommodation here for those people, particularly girls, young women, who wanted to free themselves of drugs. We didn't get very far. We didn't get much public support. Far more support for facilities to give drugs, needles, et cetera, in this town than to give them treatment. But that's another story. But Vern White to me would be a very strong possibility. I know at one time Vern was interested. Whether he still is, I have no idea. I've been in touch with Vern for several years.
Would
But
he have to give up his seat in the Senate in order to take that role on?
I would imagine so. I would
Mm,
imagine so.
mm.
Yeah. I just throw that out as one possibility. It would sure be nice to see a leading businessman in this city run. I'll tell you another candidate. Um, uh, he was on CFRA for a number of years, and is a very very strong businessman as well. You know who I'm talking about? You know what?
Steve Madeley?
Well, no, Steve wouldn't be interested. I know that.
Good
Oh my,
businessman, though.
oh my God. Well, no, Steve. Oh, I'll get to it later. Something has happened to my mind here right now. Um,
Was it a regular on here air host?
CKOY for years.
Oh,
Just
CKOI.
oh my goodness, what am I talking about here? Oh, I know him as well as my. Oh, your brain ever go flat like that?
Every
Oh,
damn day, live on the
oh,
radio in front of the entire
oh,
world.
somebody help me out here. You know who I'm talking about. He did the show, he did the morning show on CKY for a number of years, just replaced by Rob Snow. My goodness. What's the matter with me here? Okay. All right. Let's, no idea. My,
Mark Sutcliffe.
Mark Sutcliffe, of course.
I was just emailing with Mark last night. I'm sorry it took me so long to go there.
Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah. Mark, he's a very good businessman. He has strong connections. Very stable guy. Very, very intellect. I mean, he's a brainy guy.
Yep.
Knows his stuff. He knows the city. I don't know if he's ever expressed any interest in politics, but I'll tell you, if Mark Sutcliffe were going to run, he would certainly have me in his corner. But folks, I've thrown out some names here. It took me a little while to drag out the last one. I wonder what happens to your brain sometimes. I mean, I came on the air knowing very well what I was going to say. At any rate, but let's get back to Jim Watson. You may feel that he does. He does warrant another term. Aside now, there's no question. I know that many of you are going to, raise the light rail issue, and are going to hold him at least partially responsible. I'm not sure how responsible the mayor is for the fiasco that this thing has turned into. There's no question, however. I mean, he is the mayor, and the buck stops at his desk, right? But on a scale of let's say 1 to 10, how would you rate Jim Watson so far? I think he served the town very well for a number of years. One of the things I've always said about Jim, I wish he was a bit more innovative, and he admits that he is not. He's not a visionary. I wish that he was. I think we need somebody who's a little bit more visionary here. But anyhow, those are my thoughts, folks. Bob Chiarelli, of course, former mayor, former regional chair, and more recently energy minister in the Wynne government. He's expressed interest. I don't think much of Bob's career as a provincial politician. Believe me, he and I clashed on more than once. But I'm going to tell you that as mayor, I think he did a very credible job. I recall, for example, he did stellar work during the ice storm. Formed a special committee, worked with me a little bit on the air and Steve Madeley. So Bob Shirelli is another name that's out there. If you have any other ideas, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you, particularly if you can remember the name that you were talking about. It would, it would be nice. But aside from that, do you think that Jim Watson should run again? Do you think he deserves another term here? And as I say, if there's anything else you want to discuss, please let's hear it. Any comments so far on any of this, John? Let's hear
Lots
it.
and lots and lots. Mike says CKOY threw me off. He meant 1310. Well, once upon a time, Mike, CKOY was 1310. Their call letters for the last few years have been CIWW, which
Right. In my book,
threw me
and
off
the
as
old
well.
timer, it's still 13.
I know. I still, a lot of people still refer to it as W1310, which is probably what 5 or 6 formats ago. But
yeah.
here we go. Chrissy says Watson an 8. Hey, free OC Transpo for December. Agree he could run again. That's all it takes. Hey, Chrissy, free OC Transpo for a month. Okay. Bob was a neighbor of mine years ago. Says Craig, he makes a worse neighbor than a politician.
I'm gonna just say you better ask him to explain that.
Craig, please call the show.
Does he not mow his lawn, or does his dog poop on yours? What is it? What is it?
Watson needs to go, says Kim. Sherry says, no way. I believe she's referring to Bob Shirelli. No way. Had enough of Bob Shirelli, says Kim. No to hydro. Bob says Ann. Bob says, Mark Sutcliffe ran the local election debates. It was obvious he knew much more than most of the candidates. Craig is also chiming in to say he would vote for Mark. Ray says, Don Cherry, real mild-mannered. There you go. Totally agree. Mark Sutcliffe says, Richard. Lisa says, a conservative leader. And where are we here? Lisa says, Polyev needs to run federally. Jeff Seaton's names have been put forward by Sherry.
Pierre, this may come as shocking news to you, but Pierre Polyev did run federally and is now the finance critic in the O'Toole government. So I'm sorry to bring you up.
Pretty sure they mean for leader, but yeah, I get you.
Okay.
I get you. Semantics.
Okay, semantics.
Lowell Green for mayor. There you go. There's your first one, even though you said you not to put your name forward. Walter Robinson's name has just been put forth by Terry.
Walter's a good man. Yep.
Craig says, it was his barking dog at all hours of the night. When I asked him to take the dog in, he shut the door in my face, and on and on and on.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Barking dogs drive me crazy as well. Fortunately, we live out in the country here. We're surrounded by forests and deer and wild turkeys and skunks and raccoons. My one of the neighbors has a dog, but you know what? These people are very good. That dog never. I think maybe in over a year that they've lived in this house behind us, I've heard the dog maybe once. Barking dogs. You know what? This is like bad kids. This is the problem of bad parenting. If you look after a dog that's barking all of the time, that's not the dog's fault. That's your fault. You're a dog owner. Would you agree on that?
Absolutely, wholeheartedly, and I take full responsibility for my dog, and I'm lucky. My last dog and this current dog really don't bark very much, and I've never had a neighbor confront me about that. I've had neighbors confront me about my Christmas lights. Apparently, my Christmas lights are very offensive. My dog, on the other hand, no problem.
Any more? Because I have another topic here. Do you have any more comments on Watson?
Vern White for mayor, and Barb says, my Loki is not a barker, but I don't tolerate barking all the time. We've got an email in here that has nothing to do with the mayoral question. Do you want to go to it anyway or move on to something else here?
Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. As a dog owner, now I've owned dogs over the years, and I must confess on one occasion I did have a dog that barked, and I should have done something about it. I'm guilty. But how do you stop a dog from barking? Some breeds are much more prone to barking than others. Those little Chihuahua things, the little wiener dogs, yes. It seems to me they're constant barkers.
They are.
What do? You just, I don't know, shoot them or what?
No,
isn't there a collar?
No, that's not the answer at all. No.
Isn't there a collar, though, that shocks them if they bark that you can apply? Maybe someone has an answer on that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of humanitarians or animal rights activists will say that that's not very kind to the dog. I mean, you got to work with the dog. You got to learn the dog's behavior.
The hell with the dog. If the dog is keeping me or the neighbors awake, I mean, why be kind to how about being kind to the neighbors? Oh, by the way, someone I just see flashed up, Carol Ann Meehan for mayor. Let
Yep.
me tell you something that Carol Ann is one of the very few conservative. Certain, I don't know if she's a member of the Conservative Party, but she is a conservative thinker, which is one of the reasons why she got cut from CJOH. I know this for a fact. CJOH just, there's no way they wanted any conservative. They didn't want Rob Snow. They didn't want Lowell Green. They didn't want Steve Maley, and they didn't want Carol Ann Meehan. No room for conservatives on CTV. Um, Craig Armstrong says I had a German Shepherd, extremely well trained. Yeah, you can train them, but I just wonder how you train them not to bark. If anybody has any ideas.
You gotta
Um,
again, you gotta learn the behavior of the dog, and every single dog and breed is different, and you work with it. Ken, by the way, says my dad has a bark collar for his dog, and the dog learns pretty fast.
I must tell you that my daughter raises champion uh, um, dogs. Oh my God, here my mind is gone again. Boxers,
Oh
champion
yeah,
boxers, and
nice.
and my brother. She raised them when my brother has some of the Canada's finest boxers, and my daughter raises some as well. She put one of those electric fences around, and that, that didn't work. The dog just jumped over it. I think the dog got shocked once, and that was pretty well it. They just jumped, so she had to put a proper fence, no question. Another topic, but first a word here for Shields. Folks, if you're in the market for appliances of any kinds, please let me recommend Shields in Pakenham. Now, I know I still have people who have we have new listeners every single day to this program. And I'm still getting people saying, well, Pakenham, I mean, isn't it just a little town? Yeah, it's a little town, a cute little town, no question. But Shields has been there since 1947, and the storefront is smaller, although they have a very good display of appliances there, no question. But they have a huge warehouse. That's the secret. Back off the street, big warehouse. Almost all of the appliances you could possibly want, all of the brands, all of the price ranges, colors, styles, whatever. It's there. It's in stock. It very rarely. You're very rarely will you be able to order something that they don't have right there in stock. So which means no long delays like you will sometimes get with the big box stores. They'll be able to deliver right away. But the price, people are very concerned, and rightly so, about price. Check the prices. Go to the website. Check the price that you can get, even some of the sale prices from some of the big box stores, and you will see, hey, they're not dumb at Shields. They know the prices, the sale prices. They are very competitive. And being in Pakenham, their costs are a little bit lower. Okay. Shields.ca. Believe me, folks, at least if you're in the market for appliances of any kind, at least check them out. Give them a shot. You'll be very surprised. I have another topic here. I raised this issue before. I I'm beginning to give up on Aaron O'Toole. I For the life of me, I don't understand why he is allowing himself and in the process the Conservative Party of Canada to be dragged through the mud over this vaccination issue. This is such a simple thing. This is an item that simply requires strong, determined leadership. I have said this before, I'll say it again. For God's sake, Mr. O'Toole, get your caucus in line. Apparently, you have some members who have not been vaccinated. Why anybody would vote for somebody so dumb as not to be vaccinated, I have no idea. But apparently, some people did. But you know what? If already, I mean, we know that if you're not vaccinated, you're not going to be allowed into the House of Commons. So if they're not going to be allowed into the House of Commons to represent their constituents, how the hell, Mr. Tulo, can you allow them in the party? If they can't serve their constituents properly in the House, then how can you allow them in the party? All you have to do is say, look, if you're going to be a member of the Conservative Party caucus, you've got to be vaccinated. Sorry, it may offend some sensibility. You may be afraid of needles. Tough titty. All right. Well, I'm sure he won't use those phrases, but I just don't understand it. And of course, there we go, Trudeau again, poking fun at him, and I mean, he looks weak. He looks he looks stupid on this. I mean, this is such a simple issue. Get freaking vaccinated or take a hike. Simple as that. I mean, hospitals are doing it. Healthcare, we're doing it here. We're doing it at the museum. We're doing it at ball games. We're doing it at hockey games. Get vaccinated or you can't get in. Well, why can't he say to the conservative, get vaccinated or get out of the Conservative Party or out of the caucus? That's my point of view. He's dragging the party down needlessly. There are so many other vital issues that should be debated right now, that should be foremost. The whole issue of carbon tax. I mean, the Conservative Party should be pounding away. No carbon tax. We will cut the carbon tax. It's not doing anything except penalizing people. This cost of living is soaring, and one of the reasons is the carbon tax. Instead of being bogged down in debates about a few members being vaccinated, attack the carbon tax. This is where the Liberals are weak, for God's sake. The carbon tax makes no sense, and most people know it. Attack the carbon, attack the high cost of living. Instead of that, what we're doing, we're dragged through here because 4 or 5 members of the Conservative Party aren't vaccinated. Jumping Jehoshaphat. Hey, Barry, you're on the phone. Go ahead, please.
Today, Lowell.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you about the Conservatives and Aaron O'Toole and the vaccinations, but I also wanted to mention, I sent a text in, but it was pretty lengthy, and it was just about the Conservative senator that went on public media to complain about Aaron O'Toole, and then Michelle Rempel had to go on YouTube today to sort of explain to her, the problems she caused by doing that. And it just, to me, stuff like that should be talked about within the party and the caucus, and not over public airwaves and public media like that. And it just sort of reminds me of Donald Trump and all his tweets and how he raised dissension and stuff like that amongst the public with his tweets. And I just almost feel like politicians should be banned from tweeting or YouTube or anything like that, because if they're not going to take up party problems within the party and just make it public, then that makes people, angry or dissatisfied, don't want to listen to all that bickering and fighting, and it's just turning people off of the Conservatives and maybe setting them over to vote for NDP or Liberals.
Well, I'm saying that, but Barry, lay the responsibility where it rests, right on the shoulders of Aaron O'Toole. I mean, I agree with you. This is what Senator Batters said. Started a petition, et cetera, et cetera. But none of the. But I mean, this is going to be ongoing. I'm going to tell you something, Barry. I firmly believe, and there are facts to back this up. Firmly believe that this whole issue of caucus members not being vaccinated cost the Conservatives the election. O'Toole, by vacillating on this, being weak on this, displayed a side of him that a lot of people didn't like. He appeared to be weak. He didn't appear to be tough enough on his own people. And the whole issue is dragging the party down. I repeat, Barry, there are so many other important issues. The carbon tax, the interest rates are soon going to start going up again. The cost of living is soaring. Do you read the reports from the food banks around the country? Food bank consumption in some cities has tripled from just a year ago. People are starting to suffer. People are starting to suffer. They can't afford to heat their home and put food on the table at the same time. The money marts, the loan you money at about 20% interest, they're thriving. But people are beginning to suffer. And what are we talking about? 4 or 5 members of a bloody political party not getting vaccinated. Damn it. Get on the real issues here. Get on the carbon tax. Get on rising interest rates. Get on soaring cost of living. Get on these issues that are important. And instead of that, it is so, you know what, Barry? It is so freaking stupid that it just makes you want to open your wrists.
Oh, well, I don't want to go that far for a politician or a political party, Lowell, but I just wanted to say I agree with you there 100%, and that, it's just dragging things on, and there's more important things and issues. And
God almighty.
It doesn't help when Trudeau keeps Parliament out of the House until almost the end of November, and then they're only going to be
but that's fine. Parliament doesn't come back till the 22nd. But in the meantime, Trudeau is pounding away at O'Toole on what? This issue.
Yeah.
he just keeps pounding away, and he's laughing. You know what? Trudeau right now and the Liberals are laughing. They're laughing at O'Toole and the Conservatives. This is time that this stopped. Thanks for calling, Barry. Good for you, sir. Thank you. Um, any other texts coming in on any of this? Anybody else is upset about this as me? Surely to God, there are more important issues than a freaking small number of conservatives who are so stupid they won't get a jab. My God. I mean,
Wasn't he military? I mean, if
O'Toole,
this
yes,
was,
he was.
if
Yes.
this was his decision-making process in the military, there'd be no hope for our forces. Come on.
Jeez.
Shit or get off the pot.
You know, yeah, poop or get off the pot.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, whatever. But I mean, do they not realize that people are beginning to suffer out there? Okay. I mean, when you look at the cost of food increasing 10, 15, 20%, where do, and so I'm going to tell you something, that salaries, aside from very few, have not risen anywhere near to that degree. And it's only going to get worse. The cost of living is skyrocketing. And are we talking, is O'Toole raising this? Are the Conservatives pounding away on this? No, they're still dragged down because 4 or 5 members won't get vaccinated. It is so stupid. It is stupid. It is concentrated stupidity.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
The floods we're seeing in BC,
Yeah.
roads completely washed out. You cannot currently drive from anywhere in Canada and get to Vancouver.
That's right.
How is that going to impact the supply chain?
God knows. But I mean,
Right.
you know, where are the concern? Why are they talking about the supply chain? Are they making any? No. It's all about 4 or 5 members not getting value. I mean, you know what? You just when something like this happens, you really begin to wonder whether there's a lack of IQ here, whether the guy just doesn't. Maybe it's not the cojones that he's lacking. Maybe it's the freaking brain. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know I'm damaging the party here myself, but I'm fed up. And you know what? I'm not alone in this by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you're not. Here's a comment from Chris. He says, I was a registered Conservative Party member. I cut my card when Scheer was elected leader, and O'Toole has done nothing to win me back. Aaron is looking to appease the far right and not represent Canada at large. You're spot on about the vaccinations. We get them for measles and mumps and the rest. This is simple. 100% with you, Lowell, and it's a total waste of Conservative time and resources. That's Chris on Facebook.
Thank you. Can we please get some members of Parliament to address the real issues here? People are beginning to suffer. Use of food banks double and treble in some communities, including here in Ottawa. This is a danger sign. This is the canary in the coal mine, folks. Cost of living is skyrocketing. Cost of living is going to continue to skyrocket. Carbon tax goes up again next April. And some of the carbon tax charges are just now beginning to reflect at the food counter. I went through the issue yesterday about how farmers having to pay $4,000 and $5,000 a month to dry their grain, how that affects the food chain almost everywhere. It's not just, as I said yesterday, if you've got to pay $5,000 a month for carbon tax just to dry your grain, that means that the price of grain has got to go up. Well, it's not just bread. Pastas, grain is fed to cattle. It's one of the reasons why beef is so expensive. It's fed to dairy cows. That's one of the reasons why the cost of milk is going to have to go up. It's fed to chickens. The cost of chickens are going up. Cost of eggs is going up. John, I mentioned yesterday that grain is part of pet food. Has pet food started to go up yet?
Yes.
Well, that's one of the reasons. You know, I keep trying to say, hey, if you're going to charge a farmer $5,000 a month to dry his grain, that cost has got to be passed along. And it's not just in the cost of pies and bakes and buns. Grain is fed almost everywhere, all right? Anyway, I've gone through this. All I'm asking, not give peace a chance, although that's a good idea. Just address the real problems here. The real problem is not 4 or 5 caucus members not vaccinated. The problem is soaring cost of living, carbon tax, and the supply chain, the whole. Please, Mr. O'Toole, please take control of your caucus, run a proper party here, look like a leader, be a leader. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.